gentlemen, welcome to What You See Anime's 2024 nominations episode. As always, presented by our favorite car company, Honda. 17 awards are up for grabs this year, and on today's episode, we will be breaking down the nominations in each category. If this is your first time joining us for these awards, how our awards work is pretty simple. Any show that aired in 2024 is eligible to be nominated, minus one show that aired 3 days before the new year, so I'm making the executive decision to allow it in this year's awards. Joining me today on this episode is my co-host Miles, who makes it when he can, and my seasonal review partner in crime, Cozette. Now that 2024 is over, what are your overall thoughts on the year that was, and is there any agendas you want to push for tonight's episode?
Yeah, I really enjoyed 2024. I thought it was a good year. I probably, watched the most anime in a year that I have of any year in 2024, which is about one season for Pete or so. Um, but I had a really good time with the seasons and the show I watched. There's definitely agendas that I want to push. I don't know if I've coalesced them yet, but I do enjoy pushing an agenda, whether I believe in it or not. Um, I just sort of seek controversy and reactions because I'm lonely. So please tell me I'm wrong in the comments.
How about you, Cosette?
2024 was amazing. I think this is the first year I actually was burnt out a bit from seasonals. Like, I am trying to take it easy, but I'm not for winter. Because we had like Freeman, Apothecary Diaries, Delicious in Dungeon, Dead to Demons, literally my top 4 of the year. That was like amazing. Plus, we had incredible movies like Look Back, Haikyuu, Spy Family,
Mononoke?
Mononoke. Like, it was a really, really good year for animation in general. So I do feel a little burnt out at the end of December. In terms of agendas, I think the number one is to let Pete allow 2 characters from the same show be nominated at once, because this was hard. And I just want Yatagarasu to get the flowers it deserves, because it's like my favorite show of the year. So, yeah, underrated of the year.
So yeah, say normally it's one like show represents a category. I did make an exception this year for one of the categories. In the past, we have done like 2 characters for like best boy from the same show, and sort of what that turns into is it sort of splits the vote on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to pick one from each show. There are some times where we need both to be included. So this year I know exactly who you're talking about for Yatagarasu. I think I picked the character that most people I think like resonated with the most, but maybe I'm wrong. But we'll see when we get to the best boy category. So, real quick, so voting is going to start today. You can find the documents located in the description. For every vote, we will be donating $1 to the Feminine Hygiene Kits for Gaza. This donation will help people devastated by the Gaza genocide with simple items such as sanitary pads, hairbrushes, toothbrushes, toothpaste, cotton swabs, wipes, tissues, and other hygienic items. So help us out by voting, and you'll be helping others out at the same time. So link to that project will also be located in the description below. Real quick for the categories that we're going to be going over. Each will have 6 nominations outside of Best Boy and Best Girl, which will have 10. Each will have a runner-up and a winner voted on by the community. And to feed my ego, I will also be giving my runner-up and winners for each category. So we got 6, well, technically 17, but Anime of the Year is a just pick your favorite show. So we have 16 that will be voted on by the community. And we're going to start real quick with our first category, which is Best OP. So you can't start the show without talking about the opening song. So our 6 nominations for Best OP this year were Wrong World from Girls Band Cry, Bling Bang Bang Born from Mashal Season 2, Vengeance from Ninja Kamui, Otonoke from Dandadan, Bokuwa from The Dangers in My Heart Season 2, and Preview of Me from Go Go Loser Ranger. So, what are your guys' thoughts? Oh, and just for reference, I can't play the songs because I already tried and YouTube striked 4 of the 6. So, if you click the voting box, there'll be links to the songs in those categories. So, thoughts on OPs from 2024 and these 6 in general?
Yeah, this category sort of shows me that I don't know, I was a little disconnected from the popular OPs this year. For the most part, Not that I minded any of these. Like I enjoy the Dan to Dan one, and I've heard the Mashal one a couple times, and it's fine. I think a lot of these are fine. However, for the year 2024, Wrong World was my number one song of the year. It was the song that I played the most. So ultimately, the fact that I'm not a fan of like 5 of the 6, it ends up not mattering too much for my personal taste, because I'll be able to vote for my favorite regardless. Um, you know, but even when I was thinking back on it, I think last year we had so many strong OPs, and this year I don't think a lot of them really stuck with me besides Wrong World, really. So I guess like nothing bad, but I didn't think it was as strong of a year as like last year where we had like Idol and all of that stuff.
Oh,
So
for sure.
Yeah, I think this year there were some, like there's two that I listen to a lot, so I really really love those. I think for OPs this year, what I liked the most is when the OPs visually had a different style than the anime. So like Girls Band Cry and Go Go Lose the Ranger, they both had like different styles, somewhat different styles than what they were in the show. So like those two are actually my top favorite. Girls Band Cry and Go Go Lose the Ranger, like I added those songs to my playlist right away. I was working out to them like all year, so like that's like my split pick right now. Like I don't know which one I'm gonna go with. I love Go Go Loser Ranger because Tatsu Kitani, he was my favorite OP last year with JJK. So it's so hard to pick OP right now. And I have a few that I wish were nominated, but I these two are definitely like my top favorite, and it's gonna be hard to pick which one. But visually, they're both fantastic. It's really hard to pick between the two because visually they're great. The music is great. It's really hard.
It is
It's really hard.
tough. Yeah,
Yeah.
so this was one of the ones where instead of having two characters from like the same show be in it, we have the same artist twice. So Creepy Nuts is in here for both Don Don and Mashal. Personally, I'm more of a fan of the Don Don one, but Mashal's OP, not only is it the most popular OP of the year in like the world, it was the number one song in Japan. So it's sort of like Idol from last year, where it'd be really weird if I left it out, considering how many streams it has. I think just for the popularity, it needs to be included from this top 6. There were a few that didn't make the cut that I think could have. You can make some arguments. I think for as much as we dislike this show, I think the Nokotan OP has some argument of making this. I think it was a very fun and silly OP. There was a few others just based off of like your preference of music that could have been added here. Like once again, I really liked the Konosuba OP. There's the same artist that did the OPs from the other season, so seeing that was another show that I would have in my top 6, but I understand why a lot of people didn't also have it in like their top, like 5, 10 of the year. But I think from like year over year, I think OP was kind of on par from last year. I think ED is going to be the huge difference because last year we had just 3 juggernaut EDs, where this year I don't feel like we have any. And then this year for OPs, I feel like we had a couple songs that like really stood out in a couple different ways. I think like the lyricist to Wrong World, the popularity of Bling Bang Bang Born or whatever it's called. And then sort of like you said, the artistic stuff of like Preview of Me from Go Go Loser Ranger, where the animations and like the kid choir, I think is a really fun touch to the song. So that is our 6 nominations for Best OP. Moving on to our Best ED of the year. Our 6 nominations are Anytime, Anywhere, version 2 from Frieren, The Other Story from Arifureta Season 3, Taidada from Dandadan, Crazy for You, this is the second ED from Too Many Losing Heroines, Burning from Oshinoko Season 2, and Zetai Sakai from Dead Demons. What are our thoughts on the EDs of the year?
I guess like again, this is something where for last year, I think things just sort of stuck out for me more.
100%.
Um, where even the shows that were like split, something like Apothecary Diaries or whatever between the 2 years, right? Like fall into like winter. I generally like the first half of those um more. Um I do like the Frieren ED quite a bit here. It sort of resonates with the tone of the show very well. The animation is nice. It's sort of a little more, I don't know, how to describe the style, but it's not like a traditional anime sort of thing, which is fun. I don't like anything about too many losing heroines, so I'm sad, sad to see it here. Uh, but what do you do? And I really enjoyed the Dead Demons ED as well, and the entire show, just sort of like as a whole. I don't necessarily know that there's anything that I think is missing, though I will have a question about one of these once we hear Cozette's opinions.
Okay.
Yeah, Dead of Demons, like number one for me. Like that was an instant add to my playlist. And I'm glad it was actually available like early in the season, whereas the OP wasn't. I love that. I love that ED. Oh, sorry, Marnie's crying. Freerun obviously was so beautiful. I think it's the same ED as the first core, but this part was a different section of the song.
Yeah, it's like a
so
second chorus or something like that.
Yeah, it was like more orchestral, which I love orchestral stuff. There's more strings. I think Evan Call helped collaborate with the artist with this one, so it was really beautiful. I think it's stop motion. It looks stop motion, but not really. I really thought it was so beautiful. But Burning from Oshinoko, like that has like 90 grunge style, and I wasn't sure about it at first, and then I just grew to love it instantly. Dead of Demons probably is my number one pick, but like I personally would have loved to add Go Go Loser Ranger again. I think in terms of combo, ED and OP, Go Go Loser Ranger wins because like the OP and ED together were fantastic. And then I want to do a shout out to LMYK who did Without Love for Vinland Saga. She actually did Bye Bye Earth's ED, and it's so beautiful. It's the same vibe as the Vinland Saga one, and it was like my favorite ED like all year. It's a beautiful song, and I highly recommend it. But yeah, it was a really great year for EDs. I think I added more EDs to my playlist than OPs actually. So.
Oh yeah, wow. I'm both playing contrary to a little bit. I thought this year for EDs was pretty weak. Just compared to 3 of the juggernauts from last year with Mephisto, Without Love, that like you mentioned, and Red Birthmark. Those 3 to me are like probably in like my top 10 all time. Like I think those EDs are just absolutely insane. Like picking last year Mephisto over Red Birthmark hurt me because I just think like
then why'd you do it?
Because I just had to pick. You had to draw the line somewhere. Like which one had like a better impact to the story? And I just liked how they transitioned Oshinoko season 1 into the ED. That was actually my determining factor of why that one won last year. For this year, I do have like one standout, but I just really like the fact, even though like I mean, we have traditional EDs that like match the style of the story. The other story, the Ari Feretta ED that's in here, I fell in love with this song once the first time I heard it. Like, it's such a unique ED. The only thing I can think of that is similar to this is when JoJo had Jodeci as their ED. Where like this is like a baby making ED. Like it's hilarious that this is included in like an ED, and I fell in love with the song, and I really wanted to get some recognition. So this is 100% an executive decision to have this one included. I do think it's one of the best 6 of the year. It's probably like my number 2 listen to ED. I think it's great. So I wanted to give some love. If you've never heard the song before, you should check it out. But this year, I think there's a lot of just like good EDs. There's no Red Birthmark. There was no Mephisto. There was no Without Love. It was just like a good year for ED. So, that's all I really gotta say about EDs, to be honest, though.
You heard it here first. Pete suggests that you watch the entirety of Ari Fueta season 3.
No,
as
just the song.
Nope, he was a big fan of that show.
Nope,
and everything associated with it.
That is not true. I dropped season 1 after about 3 episodes, I want to say.
I believe he has said, and I quote here, Ari Fueta makes him want to have children, and I'm not sure what he meant by that.
That is weird to say. Let's move on to our next category, which is Best Action and Adventure. So we got we combined the 2 as we've done in the past. So our 6 nominations are Freerun, ReZero. I'm just gonna put this as like part 1 since it is broken up, but like Mal doesn't have it that way. Delicious in Dungeon, Dawn to Dawn, Windbreaker, and Kaiju number 8. What are our thoughts on Best Action and Adventure for 2024?
Yeah, lots of good shows here. And also the 3rd season of ReZero. So
you didn't even watch it. It was insane.
I'm sure it was.
Look, I said this last episode with Cozette. I get why people meme this shit on ReZero. This season was nuts. This season was
I don't know, man. I'm looking
nuts.
at this preview art, and there's just like 7 cat children at the front. I don't know what happens. But as far
Just take my word on it. It was pretty good.
Okay. This show was nuts. It was pretty good.
Well, okay, it was nuts to me. If you watched it, you would think it's pretty good.
I truly believe that. I'm just saying on it for fun. Remember, I have to find my agenda, so we're trying ReZero is mid out right now.
True.
And we'll see how that one does. See if I stick with that one. So my favorite show out of these nominations is probably Freerun. I mean, it is Freerun. Spoiler alert. But as far as like being the best action or adventure show, I don't think I would like pick it here. Mostly because I don't know. I don't really like Freerun for the action as much as like other aspects of it. And while the fights like do go hard, it's just I don't know. It's not the first thing I associate with the show.
For sure.
And so I would have to choose probably Dan to Dan, which I've really been enjoying. I still have like 2 episodes to finish up before the end of the year, so maybe those will be terrible and I'll change my mind, but I doubt it. And then I don't know. I guess like this is just me liking mid as I made fun of other things, but I really enjoyed Kaiju number 8. Like I had a great time with that. I thought it was fun. I liked the action a lot. I just had a great time, and I like it when people shoot big monsters. So. Those are probably what I'd be splitting it between. What do we think, Cozette?
Well, I think I mentioned this in the I said like action, I'm like half and half, and like I enjoyed most action shows this season or this year. There was like a big mix, like kaiju fighting, there's fist fighting, there's magic, there's supernatural stuff. So it's really hard to pick between all of them. And I get what you mean, Miles, about Freerun, that like you don't really see it as an action. Maybe adventure, I can see it.
Adventure, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But I think like between Freerun and Delicious in Dungeon is probably like the hardest thing for me because they're like the two that I'm like debating on. Because I do like the variety of fight styles in both because like obviously there's magic, but there's also like sword fighting and there's fantasy shit. And I love both. So it's really hard to pick. I know everyone loves Dan and Dan, but between Freerun and Delicious in Dungeon, it's hard to pick. So, but yeah. I don't know. And then Kaiju was really cool, actually. I was actually really surprised by how Kaiju number 8 actually turned out. Despite the art style, it actually, like, I forgot about it pretty quick watching the show. So, in terms of, like, pure action, I really liked Kaiju. But in terms of, like, action and adventure, it's probably between Freerun and Delicious in Dungeon.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Windbreaker for the specific action part of this. It had the best choreography in anime maybe ever. It's insane how they choreograph the fights. Like, they used, like, real life references from The Raid. If anyone's seen The Raid, like it's so cool that they did that. If you mix like the two together and sort of like how I view this is like personally I'll be basing Freerun on just like the second half since the other half wasn't that aired in 2023. This is just I can't like that's why if you ever see like people do like Freerun part 2. It's so hard to have people just judge it on that. They like forget like which episode. So I just do everything. But I guess personally I can kind of break it up. So like is like the second half of Freerun better than like the entirety of Delicious in Dungeon? I think that's like what makes these type of categories fun because while Freerun was an absolute juggernaut for me, I don't know if it was better if the second half was better than some of these other shows that we got. So it's a category that usually comes down to like I think last year was like very contested. Like I think we had like 4 shows within like 1 or 2 votes from each other. So this is always like a really fun one depending on how people vote on. So I'm intrigued to see if people will. Because I think Freerun won last year. I'll be intrigued to see if it wins again this year, just based off of what people vote for and some of the new properties like Dawn to Dawn, which was so popular. If it can overtake it, so. That is best action and adventure, and it wouldn't be action and adventure without some fight. So let's get to our best fights of the year. Our nominations are, we had the acrobatic Silky from Dawn to Dawn. We had Sakura versus Togame from Windbreaker. We had Clone Freerun versus Fern and Freerun from Freerun. Tokiyuki versus Shokan from The Elusive Samurai. Sunraku versus Weatherman from Shangri-La Frontier, and Kafka versus General Shinomiya from Kaiju number 8. Miles, you are the shonen meathead. What are your thoughts on the best fight of 2024?
Yeah, I love fights, right? I'm always like, these are my favorite parts of shows. I definitely have never fast forward through any sort of fights in any sort of long form shonen, which wouldn't include like several episodes of some shows.
True.
Um, or I just like Google who wins and then I continue on. Um, so when I was saying that I didn't really think of Freerun as an action show, this fight goes like really hard. uh, there was like for sure a really good one. But I don't know, the Acro Silky one from Dan to Dan also is just so good. It hits you with like a lot of stuff at once.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah,
It did things, yeah.
You'll either like the show or you won't.
There we go.
Yeah. So I'm not sure where I would vote. It would probably be between those two. For me though. I guess I'm a bit surprised to see a Shangri-La Frontier fight on here, which I guess is a testament to maybe its like second half. Cosette, what are we thinking?
I also don't like. I'm joking. I do care for fights sometimes. It depends on the show. Usually, when there's like some sort of like powerful like character arc or like emotional moment, that's usually when I remember it. When I feel something from it. So, Free was just literally iconic. Like that was like when I read it in the manga and then I watched it. I was like, this is perfect. But besides that, like Kaiju number 8, that one was actually pretty awesome just because there was a bit more emotion with it. Like Kakwa's literally trying to defend his humanity and he loses control. And I think that fight scene was just so powerful out of like the entire show. But with Elusive Samurai, and I totally forgot to mention in action, I wish Elusive Samurai was nominated because it was fantastic as an action show. But I think like if anyone watches the fight scene, it's literally a summary of like how Elusive Samurai is. It's like violent, but it's also like childlike and goofy, but it's animated really, really well. So like those are the ones that like stood out to me. But the other ones that I had in mind in my head was like Wistoria with Will and Julius. That was one that was in my head. Yeah. And also Oshinoko, like one of the Tokyo Blade fights. Like I feel like that, even though it wasn't like a fight, but to me it was a fight. So
yeah, no, it's a fight for sure, right? It's like a fight for acting dominance.
That's 100% allowed. The first ever awards we did, we had a Haikyuu match in Best Fight.
Well, then there. So I would. I mean, I
huge
think,
miss, Pete.
No, but like the ones that we have in the nominate, like I would have chosen one of the 6. But like I think Wistoria was also like incredible. I think in general as a show for fights, I really loved it.
Yeah. I'm gonna touch on a few of those. Like Miles said, for as much as I dislike Shangri-La Frontier, I thought this fight was absolutely insane. It was animated incredibly. I didn't watch Elusive Samurai, but that fight was everywhere on Twitter. Like Cloverworks absolutely knocked it out of the park with that fight. It was, you could not, it felt like Demon Slayer Light a little bit when episode 19 of season 1 dropped, and that was like everywhere on the internet. This fight was like everyone on the internet like halved, I guess. So it was still super popular, but this fight was just like the animation of him like running around the person was just like mind blowing. Freerun, you already know my thoughts on Freerun. I love it. The Windbreaker fight, I just think the choreography in the show is nuts, and this is one of the reasons why I picked this fight specifically, because I thought the choreography of this fight was just mind blowing. The acrobat Silky with the emotional hits. Impact is the biggest thing for me when it comes to fights. The impact for this fight was you can't like miss it. It was
my
so
wife
good.
Cried during
it was
scene.
A really good fight scene.
Yeah.
It was a really good episode in general. It was like my number 3 episode of the year. Like this episode was nuts. So like I had so much jam packed into it. And then the Kafka fight, while I do like Kaiju number 8, I think that this was the peak of the first season of Kaiju number 8. I loved this fight. I loved, like you said, Cozette, fighting for his humanity. Shinobia as like the general having a something that he needs to do even if he doesn't necessarily want to do it, but like I kind of felt that with him where like he understood that he was fighting like a human, but humanity doesn't really know a lot, so he has to do what he needs to do type of thing. So I like that contrast between those two characters. So this year with fights were just, I thought this was a great year for fights. Big fan of what we got. So that is our nominations for best fight. we're going to be moving on to something that has fights, but is also kind of fun. This is going to be our best fantasy slash sci-fi. Combine the two, just because sometimes sci-fi can mesh into fantasy and fantasy can mesh into sci-fi, like we saw with one of these shows. So our nominations are Delicious and Dungeon, ReZero Season 3 Part 1, Dead Demons, Yatagarasu, Bravern, and Freerin. What are we thinking for best fantasy slash sci-fi?
Yeah, so here I have found agenda number 1.
Okay.
This is official, right? So I've decided I'm not going on the ReZero hate train. I don't think that's really spicy enough. But what I am going on is these are 2 different genres. What the hell? And that is important to me as a nerd. You know, it's like, come on, sci-fi.
I hear your
fantasy.
concerns, and I am disregarding them.
Fair.
Here's the thing: we had 16 categories, and we had best fantasy, and we had best sci-fi. And I was like, we need to condense. We don't need more categories. We need less categories. So
we should do best drama and or romance next time. Then.
Not while I'm host.
I feel like we need more of a Miles bias.
Tell you what, you can Luigi me and take over the podcast.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Holy shit. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you're offering. Speaking of Luigiing people, my choice here is very, very clear to me. It is Dead Demons, Destruction. I absolutely adore this show. It is like everything to me. The characters are everything to me. I thought the story was great. I thought that like the friendships and stuff that were displayed were amazing. I thought the way that people talked and acted and stuff was extremely unique and great for anime. It just felt very real. All of the relationships and friendships between these characters felt like just very authentic and written in a way that I am not used to seeing things be written, which is neat. So that's my pick. You know, obviously a completely stacked category this year, right? So, I want to give Pete a shout out for getting Bravern in here because that was a great show.
I think it deserves it. I think it was.
I do too.
An absolutely
you know,
great show this year.
I just think that it's also something that maybe could have fallen to the wayside.
It was one of the. I think it was the last. I think it was nomination number 6. This is one where we had to go to the panelists, aka the Discord, to get their thoughts on some shows.
Yeah, I mean, you have Freerin that's an all-timer, ReZero, which I've recently made up with.
This episode, actually.
Yeah, like over the course, we broke up and got back together in the course of the last 7 minutes or so. Yatagarasu, which I have not watched, but people exclusively rave about, and like Delicious Dungeon is something that I think is going to be like a heavy cultural impact on our little hobby for a long time coming. Mm-hmm. So, Cozette, what are our thoughts?
Same agenda. I want fantasy and sci-fi split.
Yes.
It's literally so hard to pick between Dead Demons and Freerin and Delicious and Dungeon and Yatagarasu.
Perfect. Like, that's the whole point.
No, I don't like being. They're all my babies. I'm not gonna choose I'm literally not gonna vote. I'm joking. But
there is a no vote option.
I might do that. It's so hard because like Dead Demons on its own as a sci-fi is like absolutely incredible. But I'm a fantasy girly and I love Delicious Dungeon and I love Freerin. Yatagarasu I put more in the drama category. I get why it's in this category, but in my head it's like drama even though they turned into birds.
I'll say they literally turned into giant birds.
Oh, I know, but like I literally put like I don't know. Anyways, it's gonna be really hard.
Yeah,
it's gonna be hard to decide. And honestly, like all of you are convincing me to start Bravern at some point. So I don't know when, but I will eventually. But yeah, and I think like the one that I didn't finish the show, but I started Terminator Zero a few months ago, and it looked incredible. I just didn't have the time to like sit down and watch it. Mm-hmm. But visually, as a sci-fi, like it's incredible. I watched like one episode and I was like completely hooked, but then I just didn't have time to finish it. So I think I would have loved that if nominated, obviously, and then maybe Undead Unwanted Adventure because that was a really good fantasy this year too. But this is already like stacked. I don't know how anyone's gonna vote. So
yeah. Something that I guess I would have, it won't fit in here, but a show I enjoyed, that like almost no one else enjoyed was the new Gundam from this year, Requiem of Vengeance, which was like CG, and it admittedly looked really bad at times. However, I thought there was a lot of like really good scenes, and they did a very good job of like exploring that universe in a pretty unique way. And I'm just sad it wasn't like animated well. So I would say it shouldn't get up here, but like in my world, maybe I'd like throw it in there. You know, secret 7th nomination.
So, so one of the reasons why I like kind of combined it is sometimes it's hard to find like 6 sci-fi shows, and it's hard to like place them somewhere. And it's also like why The Bear gets nominated for best comedy when it's not a comedy. Like we kind of just have to like fit places where they can kind of belong. So fantasy and sci-fi, I thought this year was like stacked. There were some great shows that missed the cut. Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic didn't get nominated. Konosuba Season 3 didn't get nominated. If You're a Pedophile, Jobless Reincarnation didn't get nominated. So like there's a handful of shows that like probably could have made this list, but had to cut down to 6 based off of like personal stuff, like what I mean, like this is for our community and everything like that. So like what our community enjoyed watching. So everybody who watched Yatagarasu raved about it. I mean, it was an incredible show. Bravern, we did an entire episode on it. Freerin, I already said that enough. Dead Demons, probably the most underwatched show of 2024. Like, it's crazy that you go on Mal and it has like 50,000 members. It's just like, how? This show is fucking insane. And then Juggernaut's like Delicious and Dungeon Zero. Just an absolute stacked category. I think it can go a multitude of ways, especially since Freerun won this last year. Will people vote for it again this year?
Probably.
Probably will, but also like this year was like, I think you could also, I think, make a case for Dandadan to be in this as well. Like there's just so many shows that could have got in this category that didn't make the cut, but we have to make it 6 and make it challenging and make people like Cozette stress over a voting selection. So that is our nominations for Best Fantasy. Moving on to Best Drama. Our nominations are Orb on the Movements of Earth, Girls Band Cry, Sound Euphonium Season 3, Oshinoko Season 2, Yatagarasu, and The Apothecary Diaries. Miles, what are we thinking?
Yeah, really surprised not to see my dear friend Yokotan here. Because the Nokotan, whatever. Because of the amount of drama it caused from people who were coping during the first 3 episodes and thought it might still be salvageable. So also, I mean, again, very stacked here.
Insane. The season.
Yeah.
This category is nuts.
It really is just absolutely crazy. Unfortunately, I have to, I mean, I say it's stacked, but also for me, it's a slam dunk.
Yeah.
The only show I will say that it makes me sad that I have to not pick it is Girls Band Cry, which I loved. I thought was great. It's our highest rated Watch Club show of all time. I just love the general energy from that show a lot. And it's unfortunate that Girls Band Cry, of course, is currently being unseated as the best girls band show by Ave Musica. That's another agenda I'm going to be pushing.
That's next year's agenda.
Get ready for that. Because it does not matter if the next 9 episodes of that are just reruns of No-Katan episodes 1 through 3. I'll still pretend it was good. But yeah, there's obviously like Oshinoko is a beloved series. I love it too, but it's not Apothecary Diaries. We already talked about Yatagarasu, and not only was Cosette right when she said it was more like a drama, it is right here, and I suspect it could do pretty well here. Sound Euphonium, again, like a mainstay here, classic show from a beloved studio. That's
the
great.
Conclusion of it too.
Yeah, and Orb has definitely made more waves than I thought it was going to. Right, like it is, and I love to see that. So it's good. Tons of great shows. You can't really pick wrong. But I'm gonna pick the Apothecary.
I'm gonna pick wrong.
Yeah. So yeah, spoiler. You can't really pick wrong. But I'm going to vote no vote. I'm going to abstain. Cosette, what do we think for drama?
I might do no vote as well. Like, God, there were so many good dramas this year, and there were so many good surprises. Like Orb and Yatagarasu were like the one of the few biggest surprises. Oh, and Girls Bank Cry as well. They were just so surprising to me this year. Like I was so gunning for Apothecary Diaries because I was like, oh, Apothecary Diaries, like #1 anime of 2023 and 2024, easy. But then Yatagarasu came out, and I was like, oh shit, this is like Game of Thrones the anime. And then Tokyo Blade totally surprised me. I was like, shit, I like this season more than season 1. So it's gonna be really hard. I think it's gonna be between Apothecary Diaries and Yatagarasu, just because I'm gonna vote for Girls Bank Cry for a different category. Um, but I kind of wish Jellyfish was in here, but I don't know where Jellyfish wouldn't replace any of these either. So I get why it's not here. Yeah, it's hard though because maybe it would play Sound Euphonium, to be quite honest, but yeah, it was just such a good year.
Yeah, it really pains me not to have Jellyfish on here. I really wanted to. If this was just like a personal list, it would have been 100% on here. It was definitely a show I think me and you were the highest on. I think a lot of other people thought it was like okay. I don't really think anyone thought it was like bad or anything like that, but like sort of the reception it got kind of was the reason why I left it off the list, even though I would be praying. Or I guess I could have just executive decision and made it, but I felt like these were the best 6. Just in general, Sound Euphonium wrapping up everything in the way it did. I thought its conclusion was perfect. I did have some issues within the middle, but like how everything ended with this was so good. Apothecary Diaries, this part of the season had my favorite episode of the year, with episode 24 with Locken and him finding his wife. Like, it was my favorite episode. Yatagarasu, I mean, there's so many moments where it's just such heavy drama and suspense. It was incredible. Oshinoko, Tokyo Blade is my favorite arc in the manga, and they absolutely killed it in the anime. The adaptation was near perfect. Hot take, maybe even better than the manga. I thought it was so good. And then Orb being just... Every week, I am just stunned by what Orb is doing with how you make heliocentrism like so enjoyable, but like also dreadful in the same way. It is a very interesting show. Drama to me, I think it's like 4. I have to narrow it down to like 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 these all 6 of these shows I have at 9 or above. Like,
oh
yeah.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
all of these shows, so it's gonna be really hard to pick my top 2. But
I have 3 10s on this.
Yeah,
most of these are 10s, I think, right now.
I have 2 10s and 4 9s, but in terms of like, there's other elements that I like Sound Euphonium. Like, I'm way more into the music, but I thought this season with the drama was like really well done, which is how it like encapsulated everything and finishing. So like the drama was good. Girls Bank Cry drama was also great. Oh man, this one's gonna be tough. Just based off of some of the early voting we had with our Discord, is going to be a fight.
Ooh.
Yeah, so far every show is getting votes, and it's a very even fight. So I'm very intrigued once we open it up to the full public, how that is going to change. But best drama, always super fun. Looking forward to see what wins that. Let's move on to our next category that we are talking about, which is the best category of them all, which is best romance. Our nominations are Wait, what did you say?
Well, you said I was waiting for a good category. That's my apologies. I was just...
I see. Miles sucks. Okay, our best romance nominations are A Sign of Affection, The Dangers in My Heart Season 2, Pseudo Harem, The Magical Girl and Evil Lieutenant Used to Be Arch Enemies, Kimi ni Todoke Season 3, and Too Many Losing Heroines. Miles, since you are a hater, why don't you go last? I'm just kidding, you go ahead.
Yeah, no, so... It's going to be tough, right? Because as we all know, The Dangers of My Heart Season 2 is the best rom-com of the decade.
Yes.
And we very foolishly
I'm waiting for audio listeners.
We didn't review it in our no sequels allowed review of whatever season it was in, and we were lambasted for it. I'm not picking that show.
Color me shocked.
Yeah, lots of really good options here. And also Too Many Losing Heroines.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. This isn't even like an agenda. This is just like part of who I am. It is baked into my being. And so this is going to be the exact opposite of a take that I had before, and it's good. I don't know. This will sound dumb. I think my favorite on this list is probably A Sign of Affection, and I I guess like I have been historically like a little down on it, just like based off
true.
what I have like said. But really, it's just because I'm jealous about how hot Itsumi is, and and like when it comes down to it, uh, he has good chemistry with Yuki. They are in a relationship for a while that progresses. It like focuses on that aspect of the romance well, while having a little bit of a be will they won't they sort of thing going on. I really liked all the details that were paid attention. How we had perspectives from Yuki and stuff. I know this doesn't have anything to do with romance, but I generally am just picking the best show or my favorite show from the list.
That's fair.
Yeah, and so I think that's probably what I would pick. Though Pseudo Harem might give it a run for its money. I do just sort of really enjoy their dynamic. But I think overall, the much better produced show with like a story that isn't like a series of shorts and stuff is probably going to win out. And for me, that would be A Sign of Affection.
Hell yeah.
Cozette, what are we thinking?
No vote. There was so much good honestly, there was so much good romance this year. Shoujo fans ate this year because like we got Sign of Affection, we got Community Todoke season 3, we got Condition and Code Love. We got just so many great shoujo romances and also just regular romances as well, whatever. Some were like animated beautifully, like Magical Girl, Evil Lieutenant. That was a surprise to me this year. Even though it was like a shorter anime, like I loved it so much. I think the whole Discord was like raving about it. And I just love the variety of romance this year because we had obviously we had the high school romances, but then we also had some adults like casually dating. We had actual couples. We had a senior couple. That was like one of my favorite romances of the year. Like it was a really, really great year. So it's really hard to pick. My heart says Kimi Todoke. Like Kimi Todoke is literally all over my wall. So I feel like my heart says I should pick Kimi Todoke because it was a really good season with Ryu and Chizu and Ayane and Kento. But then Sign of Affection was the one I've been waiting for. And so when it was animated, I was like so happy about it. The only one that I wish was nominated was Twilight Out of Focus because it was literally like the sexiest anime of the entire year. There was multiple sex scenes, and I'm surprised it's not nominated. But it was
Pete, did you know about this?
Twilight Out of Focus? Yeah, I know what it is. I just didn't get a chance to watch it yet.
It's okay. Not many people watched it. It's okay. The masses did barely watched it, but me and Stoney did, and Jay. So
that all tracks.
Yeah, track. And then Grandma and Grandpa, I'll just give a shout out because that was literally like this. It was a senior romance. It was so adorable. It just gave me butterflies. So I loved it so much. But honestly, like the split.
Did that have multiple sex scenes?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay.
Like, cutesy like Mickey moments, but
ooh,
yeah. If the split's gonna be A Sign of Affection and Kimi Todoke, I think that's the two that I'm undecided on right now.
Romance this year for me was really tough. Leaving off All Guy Mixer was really hard. I just felt like it wasn't watched enough to where I feel like it might get swept under the rug a little bit. It will be in other categories, but that was maybe the most fun I had watching a romance show this year. In terms of best romance, it's a slam dunk for me for which one's going to win. So this is more of who's going to win second place. I think I can make a case for the other 4 of the 5 that would be on my radar for being my runner-up. But I thought this year was really good. You mentioned Grandma and Grandpa. We also had like the conclusion of Duke of Death and His Maid. That was a really good conclusion, I think, to the series as a whole. I just think like in the middle, it sort of like had some wavering trying to get to the ending, and that's why I personally didn't put it on this list. But yeah, some really good ones like Pseudo Harem, I think sort of being like the show that it was, having as good as romance as it did was a huge surprise. I thought it was going to be very stereotypical high school will they won't they, and then ended up them being married by the end of it, which was awesome. So shout out to shows like that where they kind of like exceeded my expectations in terms of what I thought they were going to do versus what they actually did. I was much higher on like shows like Too Many Losing Heroines. I thought the show was super fun. I think the romance that they showed was a unique telling of being rejected, even in its anime form. Yeah, I know Miles has some issues with it. He's giving me like the dirty eye right now, but I don't care. I liked it. I had fun with it. I know a lot of other people that liked it and had fun with it.
Wait a minute. Wait, this is the other agenda, and this agenda is wrong.
Yep.
But I don't care. We're planting the flag. Where is Alia? Where is it? It's better than too many losing
It is
heroines.
not.
Fight me, Pete.
You might be the only person who thinks that.
No, I have Sora. We have 2 people, and we're on this hill, and we are dead.
Should we go through what Sora gave Teds? I'm just kidding, Sora.
We should not. No, I want to help my agenda. Not.
Definitely some shows that missed the cut that could have been added. But I thought these 6 represented the year well. So those are our nominations for Best Romance. Moving on to the second best genre of them all, and that is Best Slice of Life. Our nominations are Laid Back Camp Season 3. This was my executive decision one, which is Pokemon Concierge, which came out 3 days before the new year. So F it, we ball. It's in here. Love Live Season 3. Kino Koinu, Mushroom Pup, All Guy Mixer, and Natsumi's Book of Friends Season 7. Miles, take it away.
Man. I've watched one of these. Yeah, and it was Pokemon Concierge. So I am active in this category by a technicality.
True.
So as we all know, you know, like I make fun of some of these other genres, but I've seen a large amount of those shows and I enjoy them. I just like teasing Pete sometimes. Slice of Life, I don't get it because I have crippling anxiety and I need to be anxious, and these shows aren't anxious. They're all like, what if we enjoyed our life and had a good time and went camping? And I'm like, what if my house burnt down while I was camping? And so I don't have, you know, I'm more of like a uptight camp kind of guy.
Nice.
So waiting for that one to come out. So anyways, my extremely well-informed vote would go to Pokemon Concierge, which I did enjoy. Cozette, how about you let our viewers know anything about any of these shows?
I only watched 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 6, which is surprising for Slice of Life, because Slice of Life is like, you know, the genre I always go to, but I haven't watched a chunk of these. Just 2, though.
There's a season 7 in here, and no one can reasonably be expected to have done that, frankly. That's a lot of seasons.
I would say, though, I'm really glad Pokemon Concierge is in here, because that was like the highlight of the end, like before the new year, I guess. But I just love stop motion. It's such a great art form, and it was so sweet. And I think we're getting in.
We're getting more.
Yeah, so it was incredible. It brought some nostalgia, and I like the slice of life Pokemon stuff. I don't care about the battling stuff. I just want Pokemon to be happy. But honestly, what I would pick, it's probably Laid Back Camp, but like my number 1 slice of lives are not even nominated. It was Ramen Nakaneko and Negative Positive Angler. Ramen Nakaneko was like I gave it a 10. Same with Negative Positive Angler. They're like my top favorite slice of lives of the year. Laid Back Camp, I really enjoyed as well, but I think from an emotional standpoint, I think I connected more with Ramen Nakaneko and Negative Positive Angler. So, and Mixer was obviously a great time. But I think for slice of life-ness, I'll probably go for Laid Back Camp or Pokemon Concierge. So yeah.
Yeah, okay, so Slice of Life was tough because some of these shows don't even have the Slice of Life tag on them, and they're like clearly that. Like Pokemon Concierge on Mal does not have a Slice of Life tag. It's like clearly a Slice of Life. So I kind of had to like do some personal judgments on what I felt was this. Where like shows like All Guy Mixer, while yes, there was romance, I think it was just like a lot of them just doing stuff, and so that's kind of why I included it into this one. Like they didn't really go on like dates. It was more of them. Well, they did. A lot of times it's like them just hanging out as a group and going for drinks.
Going on dates can be slice of lifey too, though. I mean, like that's like a thing people do during their life. I don't know. It's always made the genre a bit confusing for me.
No, 100%. But I feel like if you said like a date, I think that would probably fall more into like the romance. But when it's like a group setting, I feel like it's a little bit different than like romantic, where it's more of them just sort of having fun, and that's kind of like the vibe that I got with it, and so that's why I included it. Shows like Natsumi's Book of Friends was like the highest rated slice of life by a ton, so I felt like I absolutely needed to include it, even if it wasn't technically like watched by anybody in like our Discord. But I feel like when you're like the juggernaut of that genre, you should probably be included. Stuff like Love Live was obviously a nod to like the people that are active in our Discord. While the show is one of the rare shows that actually did have the slice of life tag on it, I felt like it needed to be included. And then we had shows like Laid Back Camp, which is an all-timer for me, and a show like Kina Koinu, which absolutely blew me away this year. It was one of the best Iyashikis I've ever watched. I absolutely adore Mushroom Pup. So it's still my profile picture in Discord today. So I think that says a lot. So this was a...
That's what that is.
Yeah, my name is Mushroom Pete in Discord.
I mean, if he never watched the show, he wouldn't have known that's a mushroom.
I feel like I posted the Mushroom Pup like 40 times.
Yeah, no, this is on me. I'm just slow. It's been a day.
Okay.
Or a year or whatever.
But yeah, for the year that it was for Slice of Life, I thought that this was okay. It was an okay year for Slice of Life. Laid Back Camp, I think if it was the same studio as a season 1 or 2, probably would have had a much higher reception compared to season 3, while I still absolutely adored it. I get why some people didn't resonate with it as much as season 1 or 2 or the movie. So that is our nominations for Best Slice of Life. Let's change gears and laugh a little bit. Let's do Best Comedy. Ha ha ha. Our nominations are The Magical Girl and Evil Lieutenant Used to Be Arch Enemies, Dawn to Dawn, Too Many Losing Heroines, How I Attended an All Guys Mixer, Delicious in Dungeon, and Konosuba Season 3. Miles, you've seen all 6. What are your thoughts?
5.
That's what I meant.
Okay. Sorry, How I Attended an All Guys Mixer. That was fall, I believe, I was busy doing stuff, sadly. I'll wake Cooper up right now and have to do things with him. Yeah, so a lot of good shows here. This is always... Comedy is always like tough for me because like so many shows have comedic elements, and like I view a lot of these things as like not comedy shows that are funny sometimes, right? Like Delicious in Dungeon. Like and like this is just me. This isn't to say that it isn't like a comedy or anything, but like when it was nominated, I was like, "Oh, do we like think it's a comedy?" And everyone was like, "Yes." And I was like, "Okay, my bad." And I would think that for like Dan to Dan as well. And potentially like Too Many Losing Heroines is definitely like a rom-com, right? So I would say that has it. Konosuba and Magical Girl are like the shows that I would strictly view as like capital C comedy. And for me, this is a bit surprising because I do adore Konosuba, but Magical Girl and the Evil Lieutenant would probably be my pick. Specifically for a character that we will be highlighting in an upcoming category, possibly the best addition to our award shows yet. So I'll leave the complete analysis there.
Okay.
But I thought there were a lot of really funny moments in the show, and there was one character who had one bit, but my God, every time I laughed, every single time. I thought that was the good, and it's probably like what I would have done, highlighted for comedy in this year. So that's my thought. Cozette, what are we thinking here?
Comedy is always hard for me because like I either like it or I don't. It's very like
and a lot of Miles now.
No, like I'm serious. Like every time the Discord raves about like 100 girlfriends, you're all loving it. I'm just sitting here like,
oh, you got Miles. You got Miles on your back.
I don't.
Miles hates that show.
I hate that show.
I don't get Konosuba. I mean, no offense to Konosuba fans. There's a 50-50 chance I'll like it. Same with Action. So, but the ones that like, honestly, the show that genuinely made me laugh a lot was Delicious in Dungeon, even though it's not like completely a comedy. Like the siren scene is like my favorite scene of the entire year that made me laugh every single time. But like losing heroines, like Anna was so fucking funny. Like I loved her.
She's pretty funny.
She's so funny. She's goofy. She reminds me of me when I'm having a good day. So and a bad day actually. So it's really hard. But then like Magical Girl had I forgot her name, the Gremlin.
Yes.
So as soon as Magical Girl added her, I was like, oh fuck, this is funny. So
she said the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like Dandy Dan, sure, it was goofy, but like I don't think I ever laughed in the show that hard. So I actually don't know what I'm gonna choose right now. And obviously, Mixer was a fun time. I laughed, but like not like as much as Delicious in the Dungeon. So I'm literally gonna vote it on like which one I laughed the most. So it's probably between Magical Girl, Heroines, and Dungeon for me. So we'll see.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's like how everybody else also said. It's just like the style of comedy where Konosuba, I feel like, has a lot of like punchlines, and Delicious in Dungeon is like, wouldn't it be funny if we wore frog suits? It's like, yes, it would be funny if you wore frog suits. That was super funny. The facial expressions of Anna and Too Many Losing Heroines was great. I think some of the other girls definitely had some comedic moments, but Anna was the standout. Down and on, we had like late with like Gigi and his personality really, I think, upped the comedy. Magical Girl Lieutenant, we already mentioned it. Like Hibana is just so fucking funny. She's great.
She's so funny.
Hold
go.
up. Let me finish my last one. And then something like All Guys Mixer with like Asagi and Fugi and like them reenacting her manga in order to get like the correct action shots. I thought like that shit was like absolutely hilarious. Like him being handcuffed in like the diner and stuff like that, and him just like not being aware of the situation he's in. Some really good moments. To me, there's one that's like a slam dunk. This is another one for me that will be fighting for runner up. But I thought this was a really good year for comedy. A lot of fun shows that I watched, and different forms of comedy as well. So I appreciate that. All right, Miles, what were you saying?
Because I go first, and I can't always think of things. Then you say things, and I'm like, oh, this is another scene from that show that's funny. So Delicious Dungeon, the scene where they like body swap or whatever, and they're all like drawn like each other, I thought was like amazing.
Yeah.
And then I just want to say a thing about Dan to Dan that I think is funny, but it is sort of like a hard to translate thing. The words for testicle in Japanese is literally gold ball. Like it's made up by those two kanji. So the word for gold and the word for ball. So like when they're throwing the gold balls at him to like give his testicles, it's like literally like a play on words sort of punny thing there, which I thought was pretty funny. Though hard to, I guess, translate in a way that isn't like giving you a note on the etymology or whatever.
Sure.
So yeah, I thought I don't know. All these shows are pretty funny. I do hate on Too Many Losing Heroines. Anna is hilarious. The faces are funny. I mostly just don't like the guy, and how much Lemon is naked. Those are the two things I don't like about the show. But there's a lot of really funny moments in it, and a lot of good like reaction gifs and things like that. And that's what humor is in 2025.
And it's better than Alia, so
it's not, but that's okay. Pete just doesn't see the vision.
wait, Cozette, tiebreaker for this. Which one did you
Don't
like
do
better?
that. Don't do that. No,
I'll put you on the spot.
On the spot to pick what?
You have to pick one
between Too Many Losing Heroines and Alia. And I said you're not allowed to tie break.
Yeah.
Oh, see, she doesn't know.
So Too Many Losing Heroines wins by default. Let's go. Woo! All right, I think we laughed a little bit too much. No more fun. Let's move on to our next category, which is biggest surprise. So I think these were like shows that were on paper or reading the synopsis, it maybe looked like something generic or something that we've seen before, but then we actually watched them and they were a little bit more either dynamic, complex, fun, better animation, etc., anything that you want to put into it. So our 6 shows that we included were Wisteria, Wand and Sword, Too Many Losing Heroines, Windbreaker, Girls Band Cry, The Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic, and Bravern. Mr. Miles, would you like to start it out for us?
I really can't escape Too Many Losing Heroines, huh?
People really like the show.
Yeah.
In fact, people were surprised by how much they like the show.
I wasn't. So, yeah, but a lot of shows that did surprise me are in this category. Wisteria, I think if we are measuring by pure surprise from where I thought we would be to like where we ended up, I would probably pick Wisteria here. Because to me, it seemed like a very generic show, and it was, but it was one that I really liked. I thought if you compare it to something like Mashal, which is like a very similar setting, I think it just sort of like does that, but better. It still has humor. It's not as funny as Mashal. It's not trying to be, but it differentiates itself from like generic Harry Potter knockoff world number 7. like just enough for me to like have a good time with it. The characters are kind of tropey, but I enjoy that, and I think they do have enough of a unique spin on them where they're not completely two-dimensional. And then another show, I guess, that I would like to highlight here is Girls Band Cry, which is one of my favorite shows of the year. And, you know, I enjoy certain girl band shows enough, but this really blew me away. And I think it was surprising how unique it was from that formula because it is a very formulaic genre. So those are the two that I guess I'll highlight before kicking it over to Cozette.
Agree with Girls Band Cry. Like I remember I watched the trailer and I was like, "Oh, this animation style is different," but it was enough for me to want to check it out. I think one of the biggest surprises was that no streaming services picked it up simultaneously.
It took like
So
6
that
months
was the
for
biggest surprise of the
Crunchyroll.
year. That was the biggest surprise of the year. But I was pleasantly surprised by the first season for the first episode, and I was shocked, and I didn't think I would like it because I don't watch many girls' band shows actually. So, and I think the music was also fantastic as well. But then Wistoria was a show that like I wasn't planning on watching at all. I was forced to watch it at Anime Expo, but I was pleasantly surprised. And because it has that like Harry Potter-esque kind of theming, but it has a sword in it, so that kind of made me be like, oh, that's cool. So I really like that. Windbreaker was one that I was like, I knew it was gonna do well, only because it's Cloverworks. Everyone loves Windbreaker, so I was like, that's probably gonna do well. So it's probably in between Wistoria and Girls Band Cry for me. I really liked them both. I think the other one that I was really surprised with was Ramen Akaneko, actually, because the art style does not look great. But it had food, so I was thinking it was going to be like a 6 or 7, and then it ended up being a 10. So that was one I personally was the biggest surprise for me.
Right on. Well, then I'll talk about some of the other shows that weren't mentioned. Something like The Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic, which sounds like a very generic isekai light novel, and it absolutely is. However, I thought like the cast was great, especially Rose. I think she was the major standout of the show. Where if you have like one S tier character in your cast, it can make you continue watching that show. Like I thought she was such a great character and standout in that show. And it's getting a second season where it's like I think I would be perfectly content with watching a show like this one season and not continuing it, but I'm very excited to see where the second season goes just because of the cast itself and especially Rose. Something like Bravern for me, why it was a surprise was coming into this without like a new property where it's like if you got like Gundam and like you kind of have an idea of what to expect with Gundam. When it comes to like new mecha properties, I think of something like Gridman or Daizanamon, which I wasn't the biggest fan of. I thought they were just like okay. So coming into this thinking like, oh, it's going to be another Gridman. Hey, it's going to be Promare or something like that. And it being something completely different, like elevated it for me so much more. Like Bravern was an absolute blast to watch. Something like Wistoria, I think you guys mentioned though, on paper, I think it's a standard generic show, but when you animate it so well, you have such a great OST. It was one of my favorite OSTs of the year. If you're a big OST fan, definitely check out Wistoria's OST. It was fantastic. Definitely elevates those style of shows for me. So, and we did a whole episode on Girls Band Cry. So if you want to hear me and Miles' thoughts on that, you can just check that out. And then Windbreaker, it was like, to me, it's just like the story itself was just about high school kids fighting and how can like you get 12 episodes or more out of this, because I felt like it was going to get really stale really fast, but the cast is so good. It's so fun. Like you're rooting for the like not just one character, you're rooting for like a bunch of different characters in their class, which I think is a testament to character writing and making Windbreaker sort of like the meathead beat 'em up that it is, but something better than unlike Baki or Kengan Ashura, where it's just like pure fights all the time. When you have like a full-blooded cast that is enjoyable to watch and you're cheering for, that's what makes Windbreaker Windbreaker. So I was definitely surprised by how much I really enjoyed Windbreaker. Those are our biggest surprises, but we gotta do the yin and the yang. What comes up must come down. Our biggest disappointment of 2024. We had Tower of God Season 2, Miles' favorite show, Blue Lock Season 2, my dear friend Nokotan, The Suicide Squad Isekai, Ninja Kamui, and Metallic Rouge. Miles, you're itching to talk. Why don't you go ahead and start things off for us?
Yeah, this one's like a little difficult for me because like I knew Nokotan would be bad because I have eyes. And so,
Shut the fuck up.
I'm
so smart.
I look, I've said I'm dumb a lot, but this time I was right. um, I didn't think Isekai Suicide Squad was like that bad, all things considered, and I also don't think expectations were super high for it. Maybe they
Ooh.
were. I don't know. Maybe it was mostly because I talked to you and some other people about it, and I'm not like in the greater scheme of social media. But like, I read the description to you, and you're like, I will not be watching this.
True.
So really, using that as my baseline, it's hard to be disappointed in a show. Tower of God season 2 is probably where I'd go, or Metallic Rouge. So the reasoning behind this is like, oh, okay, we have like a new property from like a great studio that does evocative like preview art. Oh, no one cares about this at all, and it's not good, and it's done nothing.
It was the
That is,
anniversary project for
yeah,
Bones.
yes,
And they
yeah,
just shit the bed.
yeah. So like that's like a pretty big like. To me, it's like so disappointing everyone has already forgotten about it.
Yeah.
And that is like the condemnation, right? So like, we all remember No Katana that it wasn't that great, but like, I don't know. Again, we got some reaction gifs out of it and we can make some jokes about it. And it did, yeah, we have, there's the dance. We'll always have that OP. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say anything about Metallic Rouge after like episode 2 aired. Like it was just immediately bam. And then Tower of God season 2 was like very anticipated. I know that it's like adapting for in like the manhwa, like a well-loved sort of like the whatever the arc's name is, I forget.
The workshop.
Or
Yep.
yeah. So, people were looking forward to this and stuff, and it didn't deliver. And to me, that's again disappointing, especially when you have as strong a basis as like season 1 of Tower of God gave. So not to be able to like capitalize on that is pretty disappointing. I'll never say a bad thing about Blue Lock. You could show me a Microsoft PowerPoint about the fascist soccer show, and I would enjoy it, and that's what I got.
Nice.
PowerPoint of it. So, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and say I enjoyed that. And those are my thoughts. Cozette, what are we thinking?
I didn't watch a chunk of. Actually, no, I watched a few of these shows, but I think Tower of God was the one I was most disappointed, only because because you all praised it, and I was like, okay, I'll binge it before season 2. And so in season 2, I kind of expected the same camaraderie, like the same kind of group in season 1, and we didn't get that. I was already like not falling for it because I missed the original group in season 1. So I think it was just a story thing that I was disappointed with. I actually don't know if like the animation or anything fell through, but just from the story, I got bored pretty quickly. But Metallic Rouge, man, like we didn't even nominate it for best OP, but it was a really good OP.
Really good OP.
It's a really good OP, but it had elements of like a really good anime. It had great VAs, the music was awesome, the art style was really cool. Honestly, it was just the story and like I guess the characters were kind of there, but the story was like what really killed the show. And I think if they just spent another year, didn't do an anniversary project and just waited a bit more and like fleshed out the story, I think it would have been really, really good. So I think that was disappointing, but I'm in between Tower of God and Metallic Rouge. I didn't even try to watch Isekai Suicide Squad, so I don't even think I could have watched it in Canada actually. So whatever. So I think it's between Tower of God and Metallic Rouge for sure. Nogotan, I'm like Miles. I was like, I had a feeling I wasn't gonna like it anyway. It just had that comedy aspect that I knew I wasn't gonna like. So yeah. So
Fair enough.
I don't know.
Fair enough. I'll touch on some other shows. Something like Ninja Kamui, which through the first like 3 or 4 episodes had an 8.4 on Mal. It ended with a 6.67. Like it fell off a fucking cliff. I think I didn't watch it, but I think they did the Yasuke thing where like it's about ninjas and then they added like robots or something. It's just like it's a show about ninjas. Why did you add robots? Type of thing. Metallic Rouge was a huge bummer coming into this with like it looked good, it sounded good. I think the premise was there. It was just so fucking boring. It was so boring. I think I dropped it after 1.5 episodes. Tower God, I read this arc in the manhwa. I wasn't like super high on the arc in the manhwa. I think everything leads up to the next arc, which is insane. However, like if they would just done like an average adaptation of Workshop, I would have been happy with it. I felt like this fell pretty far short. Isekai Suicide Squad, the property behind it, just having all those names attached to it, and Wit Studio, and then you deliver like a very mediocre show is tough when you are a top tier studio. That's kind of why I included it in biggest disappointment. And then Blue Lock, everybody, if you're on social media, you saw what they put out, whether it's from cringe dialogue or PowerPoint presentations. You got that in Blue Lock. So I think this is a pretty good summarization of our biggest disappointments of 2024. Moving on, I think this is Miles' favorite new category. We have Best Gremlin. So a gremlin can be described as like a bunch of different things. I usually just say it's like somebody who is chaotic, but at the heart of their soul, they're a good person, but they kind of just like do some stuff that is annoying, but can kind of get away with it by either being funny or cute or something along those lines. It's usually girls, but a gremlin can be anybody. So our nominations for Best Gremlin of the Year, we had Nina from Girls Band Cry. We had Yuki from Alya Sometimes Speaks in Russian. We had Oron from Dead Dead Demons. We had Mamoru from My Wife Has No Emotion. We had Hibana from The Evil Lieutenant and Magical Girl Used to Be Arch Enemies. And last but not least, we had Lulu from Bravern. Miles, take it away, Mr. Gremlin.
This is the hardest category for me.
It's stacked.
It is stacked. It's like very hard for me to dissect how I want to go about this. There's like a few different ways, right? One, which one of these would I not want to feed after midnight? I was going to use the other gremlin thing, and that would have been bad in context. And but like there's just so much different energy. Someone from what some people are calling the best comedy and best romance of the year, Alya Sometimes Hides Her Feelings in Russia, like Yuki.
In Russia, damn.
In Russia, you have to go find them.
They are really hiding.
Yeah, they're somewhere in there. It's a big country. In Russian is like has a lot of gremlin energy, but is also sort of like a mastermind character. Which I love that like little sister is secretly evil and a mastermind trope from shows such as Drake and Josh or whatever. So I was a big fan of that. Oron is maybe my favorite character of just like the year. Is very good, but and Nina is great. I adore Nina. I adore everyone in that show. I feel like you could have thrown any of the girls almost from Girls Band Cry into this category, or at least half of them. But Nina is definitely like the exemplification of this sort of energy. But Hibana is so funny and such a gremlin, and just I don't know. So it's I don't know what I haven't made a decision. I don't know if I'm going to make a decision. I think Hibana probably is most gremlin-y. Like she is the most pure gremlin because she is magical and also a gremlin and uses her magical gremlin beard. I don't know who Mamoru is, so I can't speak to this
the child robot from My Wife Has No Emotion.
Yeah. I don't know what any of that means. So it would be between the other five to me. I like Lulu a lot, but I just don't think she quite stacks up in gremlin level to these other four. Cozette, I do know that you know who Mamoru is, and so I don't know how many of these you know, but what are your thoughts on Best Gremlin?
I mean, Mamoru was just a sweetheart. He's just a kid. Like all kids are gremlins, aren't they?
True,
like
but he's a robot.
God, yes. Cooper for Best Gremlin next year. That's
I'll vote for
It'll be Cooper versus my niece in Best Gremlin.
Yeah, I didn't know what the heck a gremlin was until Pete listed out who, and I'm like, okay, so I guess it's like a vibe. So I was like,
yeah, it's 100%
sure a vibe.
Yeah, it's a vibe. So obviously, like, I don't know Lulu or Yuki, and then obviously I know Nina. I mean, Oron and Hibana are like the top two, I think. I want to say Oron just because she's been there for like the entire season, and we've seen her gremlinness for like a million episodes. But Hibana, oh man, when she swore,
It's so funny.
Fuck.
It's just so funny.
and having it as like a selection on the forum makes it just like a good reminder how
Yes.
chaotic she was. So this is actually gonna be really hard because my heart was set out on Oron, but then there's Hibana, and it's a split vote, and like in my heart I was like, oh, Anna from Losing Heroines also a bit of a gremlin herself.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Same with Chizu actually, because I loved her. Part of me also thought Kiyomoto from Look Back as well, but she's more like a quiet gremlin in a way. But I think it's probably gonna be Oron, but I don't know. Hibana, she might change my mind. So we'll see.
Fuck.
But I'm glad this category was added, so now I know what the heck a gremlin is.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I made this category based off Nina. I think she was sort of like started getting my gremlin gears rotating, and then kind of realizing that this year is filled with gremlins. I'm sort of in the same camp as you. I think it's like a 3-way battle between Nina, Habana, and Oron. I could see people liking Yuki a lot, sort of the shit that she did in Alia with like the "oh no, my brother cucked me again" type of shit. Like people really liked that type of thing. That she was joking, obviously, but like people like that dialogue that she brought in. Lulu and Bravern just say "talk." Was it like Gakapi or like all the time?
Yeah.
And then I had to throw in Mamoru. He sort of emulates what a gremlin is, but in child form and a robot form. So I really like that combination. Him like not knowing how to like drink coffee and just like splashing water around and everything like that because he's literally a kid and he's learning. Definitely resonating with like gremlin energy that I really enjoyed. But yeah, I think it's gonna come down to 3 of them. So it'll be interesting to see who gets this vote, because based off of what we have for early voting, it is a 3-way race. So if you are interested in voting for the other 3, you better start campaigning, because I think this will be a 3-horse race between Best Gremlin. That is one of our new categories from this year. Another new category that we're doing this year is Best Ship. So not the Going Merry, but these are people in their shows that have energy and connections with each other. However, they're not in a confirmed relation. So that is the difference between ship and couple. So our nominations are Momo and Okarun from Dandadan, Fuji and Asagi from All Guys Mixer, Mao Mao and Jinchi from Apothecary Diaries, Nina and Momoka from Girls Band Cry, Marcel and Fallon from Delicious in Dungeon, and Shun and Byakuya from The Magical Girl and Evil Lieutenant used to be arch enemies. Miles, I know you're a giant shipper on Tumblr. What are your thoughts on these 6?
Yeah, so again, we're learning about my disconnect from people.
Yes.
Just in general. 1, I'm not a Momo Okarun shipper. I have more refined taste. I like my women to be kind of mean and worse, right? And so the pink-haired girl whose name is escaping me.
Aria, I
Um
think her name is?
her
I-
name is Ira.
Ira. That's what
Is who I would ship him with, because I think it's funny. And I don't know. Now, the Marcel and Fallon thing is apparently massive.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Because that has
okay.
art of it.
Okay. I never picked up on that while watching. Spoiler alert, Fallon's in like 1 episode of the show. Um,
Well, she's in more than
uh,
that.
she's in like 2. It's like legitimately 2. Yeah. um, man, I watched the show. She's
Did
not
you?
in a lot of
She's a
episodes.
freaking
Yes.
chimera for like 4 episodes.
Not actively.
She's running amok in the dungeon.
They don't see her.
They reference her.
Okay.
She's
They do,
alive. She's alive in spirit.
She is the MacGuffin of the show. You are correct.
Yes.
In the same way that the Ring in Lord of the Rings is a character.
Thank you.
So like I guess I don't really get that one, but I could see it. And maybe like it would be bigger in the source material. And I really like Fallon, so like you can ship her with whoever you want. Like I'm down. Or not Fallon. Yes, Fallon. No, Marcel. What am I doing with my life? I'm literally they're I'm looking at them, but the picture and the names are reversed, and like people who can't like read a color if it's in a different color, I can't do that. Um, but I need to talk for like half a second here. Mao Mao X Gen C is a terrible ship. It is awful, and no one should fucking vote for it. That is insane. It is psychotic. Mao Mao should never ever marry anyone. She should be devoted to being a girl boss and being a scientist and burning herself with chemicals. Okay, she doesn't need this fucking pretty boy coming in and ruining her life in that way. Okay, um, fucking Jinchi would be fucking lucky. Okay, and he's not, as we've seen in the show. Um, anyways, I'd probably pick Nina and Momoko. I think they have like pretty good energy. This is like I guess a weird mentality, but Shunin and Byakuya from Magical and Evil Lieutenant are like too close to dating for me to like have any energy into shipping it. I guess because like I just feel like if in a world where that series would continue, it would just do that for me, and so I don't need to care. Which is like similar with Momo and Okarun, right? Like that is just something that I suspect will happen at some point, probably later than sooner, based on the fact that it's like maybe sooner than later. By the look, Pete, no, maybe okay, later than
rather
sooner.
than sooner. There you go.
Okay. That was my initial thought, but I thought the look you were saying was like, actually, you'll be surprised. Nope, it was good read, Miles.
You will not be surprised because it's exactly what you think it's going to be.
Okay, yeah, so it'll take forever, and there'll be a billion road bumps in the road, and then they'll have like an arc or two at the end of the whole manga where they're dating. Cool. Glad I could call that one. Cozette, what are we thinking here?
It was really interesting where you were like, oh, if they're close to being a couple, I'm just gonna ignore them. Because now I'm like, oh, because I'm basing this on butterflies, like which ship gave me, the butterflies, the honey glows. Even though I do have Marcel and Fallon right here, I did love Fuji and Asagi a lot in Mixer, and they weren't like my first couple that I liked on the show. I liked them at the end, obviously. I agree with the Mao Mao Jinshi scenario because I originally saw Mao Mao as aromantic, but like you can still be a couple if you're aromantic anyway. But I just got butterflies from both of them so many times in the show. Same with Shun and Byakuya. Like there's so many butterflies. I love them. Marcel and Fallon are like a ship that I'm like, yes, I don't know if they're going to be together, but I ship them hard. So it's going to be a hard decision because I love all these people. Momo and Okarun, I know that I have a feeling that's also Endgame, but it's also shonen, so it's probably not going to happen for another 200 episodes. So
yeah, that's yes.
Yeah, so in my heart of hearts, it's probably Mao Mao because she's best girl, but I don't know. Well, I'll surprise y'all. I don't know what I'm picking yet.
Yeah, so far I'll say so far for the early voting, everybody has been voted on so far. So it's fun to see. It's fun to see that. The Shun and Byakuya, it's like they're pretty. They might as well be a couple, but like it's not confirmed, and like I feel like it's tough. This was a really tough one. I feel like they needed to be on ship or couple, and I had to like make a distinction, and so I put them in ship just because they're not like a confirmed relationship. I mean, this is all just for fun, so it's whatever. But like stuff like Nina and Momoko, like Nina in an episode like this is me confessing my love to you to Momo is like pretty hardcore shipping. Asagi and Fugi, I bet will be a couple at some point in the show, but until then, they're just their golden retriever and master relationship, which is super fun. I'm all for Jinshi and Mamo because I just think it'd be great because I think Mamo could whip Jinshi into shape and that'd be really fun to see. Okarun and Mama, I'm with Miles. I like the pink girl more, just like in Blue Box. Just like in Blue Box, I like the pink girl more. I like Momo as a character, but I don't know. Maybe it's my Bochi tingling. I just like pink.
You know what?
girls.
Ira went for it. She was like, "I like you. Let's do stuff." And being forward like that is admirable.
Shoot. That's why Nino's the best girl in Quince. You heard that first. There we go. But yeah, fun category. Cozette looked like she was going to stab me based on what I said, but it's all in good fun. I promise. If they're best,
shocked.
Absolutely shocked. All right, so that's best ship. Let's get to the actual confirmed couples in their show and do best couple. our nominations are Itsumi and Yuki from A Sign of Affection, Anna and Kyo from The Dangers in My Heart, Sawako and Kazuhaya from Kimi ni Todoke Season 3, Rin and Iji from Pseudo Harem, Rishi and Arnold from Seventh Time Loop, and Jin and Jishi, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
From Twilight.
Gishi?
From Twilight Out of Focus.
Gishi.
Miles.
Gishi. I don't know. Yeah, so, for me, again, the difference between these two is, like, energy. For Ship, I feel like you have to have someone to fight, and you need to, like, believe in your side, right? Where this is stuff that's just, like, more cut and dry. It's, like, less zealotry, and, like, faith in, like, nothing, right? Like, I like, when Quince was airing, I would, like, if I found, like, an Itsuki shipper in the street, I would stab them.
Yep.
Because I need to claim my territory. But for this, it's all pretty cut and dry, and I think we have a lot of good couples here. Now, my personal favorite is going to be Rishi and Arnold, and that's because they have some stuff that every couple needs, in my opinion, right? An inherent distrust for each other. They can't, right? 2, the fear that maybe you could get murdered by the other one. I think this is important for relationships. I think it keeps you in line.
It's kind of
Halo
sexy
could come through
too.
this door at any moment and kill me, and you would never know. One time she gave me a Valentine's Day card that said they will never find your body on it. So, that's just generally our energy. But I really liked Rin and Iji and Pseudo Harem. I thought the interactions between them were great, and I thought the way that they took the dynamic of her having, like, the different personalities and, like, the opposite way of I was expecting it, where he was like, oh, I just like you the most, but she had put so much effort into, like, crafting these things that, like, she was, like, upset that he didn't also still like the other personalities was fun, because I expected that to cause, like, jealousy in her. Itsumi and Yuki are obviously, like, a great couple. Itsumi, though, is, as I've said before, too hot, which does generate it lowers them down a little bit for me, because he is, like, the platonic definition of a hot guy, and it's just too much for me. I can't take it. And I don't like Anna and Kyo, for sure. I don't sue me. Best rom-com of the decade, my ass. Cosette, what are we thinking?
I just want to say overall for the year, I'm just happy with the representation we got this year with couples, because we got our first Omegaverse BL anime this year. There's a lot of BL animes this year. There wasn't enough Yuri though, so I will flag that. I'll flag it for Veronica. But I do like the representation this year, and I'm really glad that Jin and Gichi actually, like, made it on here, because, like I said, Twilight of Focus was extremely sexy, and they're basically enemies to lovers, which is, like, my favorite trope. So
Oh, good.
they were fantastic.
See? You gotta start off not trusting each other.
But they weren't gonna kill each other.
Metaphorically or literally, whatever. It's just a tomato.
But, and, like, I mean, yes, Sawako and Kazuhaya, yes, I do love them. They're right here. But Ryu and Shizu forever, so they're my favorite couple. But honestly, I think I'm gonna go with Itsumi and Yuki, only because we finally got an adult romance. Itsumi is a man. He knew how to take care of a woman, and I like that. A lot of these romance shows that have just, like, a shy guy and a shy girl, and I was kind of over it. So it's nice to just have a man just be romantic and go for it. So yeah, I'm going for
Arnold
it.
is a man, the emperor of an entire country, just went for it, proposing day one.
Yeah.
That's a little too forward.
Yeah.
There's limits to how forward you should be.
Shoot.
Also killed her.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that. To be fair, she was trying to kill him.
I don't know. And then Rin and Edgy, I did like the fact that we got to see them from, like, high school to, like, obviously adult days. So that was really nice. But honestly, it's Sign of Affection for me, like, hands down. Like, that's the one I'm actually, like, deciding on in terms of, like, a couple. So yeah.
Right on. For couples, I love this year. A lot of, like, I love the amount of, like, solidified couples we had this year. I think that was, like, a huge breath of fresh air, Well, a lot of the will they, won't they, go read the manga to find out. Maybe you'll find out in season 2. And some of these shows just got straight to the point, and either they were new couples or something like Kazehaya and Sawako, which develop their relationship more since they get together in end of season 1, I think. So like, sort of just like developing that category of like established couples was really great. For as much as I think The Dangers in My Heart is like a perfectly fine show, I did like the confession scene a lot in season 2. I think that they're a pretty solid couple. Itsumi and Yuki, Side of Affection is one of my favorite romances. I'm like up to date with the manga, so that says a lot about that. Rin and Iji were just so much fun. Like an absolute blast couple. Probably my favorite, like the most fun I had with a couple were those two. Just when they were together, their dynamic was fantastic. I did see Twilight out of focus. So I'll take your word that it's spicy, but if people need that to win, go vote for that for sure. Riche and Arnold, I thought they were okay. They're probably my bottom of the 6, but I more like enjoyed the two as characters themselves rather than them being like a couple. Or someone like Itsumi and Yuki, I really like enjoyed their dynamic as a couple. So that's kind of like the difference between the two. So those are our nominations for Best Couple. We are now down to our last 2 nominations you can vote for. And this is always where we get spicy. And these are our Best Boys and Best Girls of the Year, which will have 10 nominations each. So our nominations for Best Boy for 2024 are Okarun from Dawn to Dawn, Laios from Delicious in Dungeon, Aqua from Oshinoko, Subaru from ReZero, Takaki, is that his name?
Yeah, Takaki.
Takaki from Negative Positive Angler, Yukiya from Yatagarasu, Itsumi, Miles' favorite fan, from Sign of Affection, Oxy from Orb, Kafka from Kaiju number 8, and Tokiyuki from The Elusive Samurai. Miles, who you got?
Yeah, this is an interesting thing too, because we have like a lot of it's not a lot. I'm afraid to say it. Is this a safe space?
Yeah, actually, yeah, Best Boy is safe, Best Girl is not a safe space.
Okay,
but
that's
Best
fair.
Boy is fine.
I don't get the louse thing. I don't get it.
Oh man.
Yeah, you shouldn't have said it was a safe space. I would have put like Senshi up there. And thank you. It's probably like how I would have done it. For Delicious in Dungeon. You know, I don't get. I don't know. This like sort of goes into my issue with Delicious in Dungeon, which is all the cooking scenes.
The delicious part.
Yeah, I'm more of a dungeon kind of guy than Delicious. You know, I don't know. I was just like, if I was trying to save my sister so that she could date my elf friend, then you know, I wouldn't spend all that time cooking. But that's just me. It sort of just feels like maybe he is secretly responsible for Fallon's kidnapping, so he has an excuse to do all this cooking. And that is nefarious and also canon. Itsumi, as we talked about, is a very good choice, but he does like a variable overflow thing for me where he's just too hot, and therefore I cannot vote for him. Aqua is very good, but also like a little sort of like edgy, so you know, I'm not sure exactly where I'll be going there. I think
so. Who
looking
do
at this,
you like?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the plan for me is to, before we reconvene in 2 weeks, is to watch all of Orb so I can vote for this guy. That's the plan, and I'm going to stick to it.
Okay.
I mean, I'd rather you watch Yata Karasu over Orb, but
okay. The plan is.
Okay, there's too many boys. I need boys and men separated.
Best man or boy?
Yeah,
best man.
Best man, because that would be Kafka and Senshi. Come on. I agree with Miles. I'm a team Senshi. Senshi was my number 1 man. If he was on here, he would win instantly, but he's not. I love Takaki. He was one I was pushing for because he is literally the best boy friend you can have. He literally like pulled someone that was homeless, took them in, and took care of them. So he was incredible. But I'm in between Yakuya and Tokiyuki only because there were boys that literally protected their people. Yukiya protected Waka. I always forget how to pronounce his name. The lead guy in Yadakarasu. For me, best boy is someone who literally like is unselfish and takes care of their own. So it is a hard decision. Itsumi does not really fall there for me. So it is between Yakuya probably and Tokiyuki, and then maybe Takaki as well. I need to evaluate. But it would have been Senshi in my heart. And also Uba from Dead Dead Demons, actually.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I'll touch on some of the other people that were missed or weren't talked about. Subaru this year I thought was fantastic. His speech during, I think it was like episode 7 was awesome. Showed a lot to his character, and then just him in the last episode of ReZero, I'm not going to do any spoilers, but him kicking down the door was really cool to set the next part. Aqua and Oshinoko, I thought he just absolutely killed it in Tokyo Blade. Like, I think his character in all of this was great. Okarun, super fun character. Both sides of him, whether it's his depressed ghost side or his just nerdy Pete side, is just like really fun. I'm a huge Lyles fan. I thought he was great. His awareness to situations is all over the place, which makes him just like a really fun character to root for because he's kind of dumb, but like he has like a heart of gold and he's like the protector of his entire team. Like, I'm a big fan of that. Oxy was just so good. What an incredible character from Orb. Like his path of being sort of a second-hand guy, like a right-hand man, to sort of changing the landscape of Orb itself is kind of massive. Like the impact that he has in like the 9-10 episodes he had of Orb is just next level. Kafka, super fun. Nice to see 32-year-old representation in anime. But yeah, I thought this year was like a very solid year for Best Boy. I don't think there's a standout to me. I think this could really go down to like 6 or 7 of them, but yeah, because last year was Thorfinn and that was like super easy to nail. This year I think it could be a shootout. So Best Boy, that is that. We're moving on to the last nomination, Best Girl or Woman or whatever, it doesn't matter. Our nominations are, we got Mao. We do have Mao. Okay, I'm sorry with Mao. I meant to say Momo, yeah. But Mao. Fuck it. Mao from the Apothecary Diaries. Momo from Dawn to Dawn. Yoshino from Yakuza Fiancé. Yuki from Shoshiman series. Akane from Oshinoko. Anna from The Dangers in My Heart. Rin from Pseudo Harem. Free Rin from Free Rin. Another Anna from Too Many Losing Heroines. And Nina from Girls Band Cry. Miles, you're voting Mao. Tell the people why they should vote Mao.
Okay, yeah. I have to think about this. There's agenda pushing because the correct answer is Mao. If you are voting, vote for Mao. Mao is just an absolutely amazing character. She is hilarious. She is like the embodiment of a curious person who like gets things done and looks at things in like a unique way and is able to problem solve. I think she is my favorite sort of like analytical scientist character in anime, where she is, I don't know, she doesn't always get there like immediately. She isn't like a super genius. Like, she's obviously extremely intelligent or anything, but it's not like, oh my god, I'm so smart, like E=MC² boy from like Dr. Stone or Light Yagami or whoever. You know, so it just, I love her character. I love that whole like little world they're in and the mysteries they set up. This category though is like, holy crap. So Mao won last year, as well she should have. As well she should win everything she's in. But I have other characters I like, and maybe they won't get another chance. This is what I have to do. I have to do the plus or minus. We can see my poster of Akane on the wall, you know? If I don't vote for Akane now, You know, like, do I give Akane the Joel Embiid vote? Where, like,
Ooh.
she doesn't really deserve it, but, like, Mao Mao is just gonna win the last, MVP, and then, like, maybe she'll win the next two probably. So, like, there's an argument to be made for Akane, so, like, let's throw her the vote. I loved Yuki from the Soshiman series. Honestly, maybe a miss on Best Gremlin. Like, she could have been there, like a more nefarious Gremlin, right? So, like, once you get the Gremlins,
Yeah.
once you feed them after water, they go from like the little fuzzy things to these creatures that'll eat you and kill you, and that's her.
We
She
haven't
goes from
even
this.
established like the hierarchy of gremlins because there's
Yeah,
gremlins and then there's goblins and
yeah,
then there's
yes,
hobgoblins. And I feel like
yeah.
Yuki might be in hobgoblin territory.
Yeah. So, in a month, Pete and I will be doing an episode on the ecosystem of gremlins in
Yes.
anime. So please tune in for that. Um, there's just like so many good. Nina is one of my favorite characters ever, and like honestly, she might be like third or fourth for me this year, and it's just how stacked it is. Someone we've already talked about, like Momo from Dan to Dan, who is just like extremely likable and happy and just a good, genuine human. And like I'm like, I don't know, sixth or seventh or something. It's like so stacked this year. Like Rin from Pseudo Harem, who I adored, I'm just like, get her out of here. She's not even in this conversation. Um, you know, um, I didn't like too many losing heroines, but I did like Anna. That's another great character. I mean, there's two Annas. We have too many Annas this year.
Too many losing Annas.
Yeah. I mean, Fryron's here, and we haven't even talked about her yet. Like, you know what I mean? It's just an absolutely stacked year. Vote Mal Mal.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
just literally, yeah. So I think you all know who I'm voting for, but I just love the amount of badass, intelligent women characters this year. Like they all can murder you. Like Yuki, especially, she will murder you.
Okay, so wait. Okay, it's good now. Murder is good now.
Well,
There's levels.
yeah, there's levels. Like Mao could kill you, but like she'll do it in a way that's like considerate, I guess. Uh, okay, you already said amazing things about Mao, so I'm not even gonna talk about her. But like, I really loved Yoshino. I think they used literally being a Yakuza daughter. Like she represented that so hard, and she wasn't a ditzy spoiled girl. She literally like lost a tooth fighting. She was so impressive
She
this
got
year.
hit in the face with a hairdryer, and then she was great.
She was so badass. Momo, honestly, it's between Momo and Seiko for me because I love them both. But they're all just equally just badass women. I mean, the first top six. The remainder are okay for me. The first six in the form, I'm like rooting for. It's definitely Mao though. It's always been Freerin or Mao, but I'm always Mao like number one for me. So, but I'm just so happy with how many strong female characters we had in anime, and I'm just really happy with it. And they're all just so much fun and so much great personalities. And it's really hard to pit them against each other, so this might be a no vote too. But it's definitely gonna be Mao. Like it's a given. But I'm surprised if like someone beats Mao. I'll be really surprised.
She won last year.
Yeah.
Probably will win this year, and she will also be nominated next year. So she could do the Patrick Mahomes and maybe three-peat this category. I was gonna say for someone like Rin, my favorite voice acting performance this year was Rin's voice actress, and something like that definitely adds an element to me. Like I fell in love with Rin's character, and the voice acting was from that. Yuki, I think, is just like the underdog. I thought she was absolutely incredible. I think if anybody watched the show, you understand why Yuki is in this category. Like she blew me away. Someone like Nina, while also being a gremlin, I thought was a fantastic character. One of the Annas I liked more than the other, but I did thoroughly enjoy both of them. You mentioned it, Cozette, but like someone like Yoshino, I think this is all stemming back from reading Yakuza Lover instead of Yakuza Fiance, where the character is more a little bit like plays back and lets the man do everything. Yoshino is full head of steam all the time. She doesn't wait for anybody else. She does things on her terms, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And then we have, the juggernauts Freerin and Mao Mao, which I mean, you guys defended them enough. I would just say like Freerin in the second half, I really enjoyed, especially in like the Freerin the fight with the clone. I really enjoyed her character in those little elements and like the fun like. I guess it's still her character where like she hugs that one girl and she's like, "Oh, you smell nice," like stuff like that. It's like makes Freerin such like a fun character. It's not just like this life adventure that she's going on. It's also like the fun, quirky moments that she has with like Fern and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, look, I'm patting Fern on the head, and Fern's like, yay, I learned laundry spells. So there's a lot of elements that go into these characters that change it. And then like someone like Akane, where I am a Kana stan for Oshinoko, 100%. But this is Akane season. Like, absolutely just killed it. Her performance, like, on Tokyo Blade and just sort of like her realization and coming forth with all the information that she's getting outside of the play as well, and sort of like banding with Aqua was awesome. So her character was fantastic this year. I think to me, I have my winner for like who's gonna win, but I think runner up is gonna be between like 4 or 5 other people. So really looking forward to see how people vote, just because I think Mao Mao like destroyed last year.
Yeah.
By quite a bit. Let me just get the results real quick.
Most people watched Apothecary Diaries.
Yeah, that's another thing for sure.
Yeah. Mao Mao has a cat named Mao Mao now.
Yeah.
How do you beat that?
So last year, Mao Mao had 28% of the votes in a 10-person category, which is
Jesus Christ.
So she beat Mitsumi from Skip and Loafer by 13%. So kind of shows you how well she did last year. And if early voting says anything, she's probably going to be a repeat this year. But we'll see. We only got early voting in so far. We still got like 80% of hopefully the public vote left.
Stop the count.
Stop the count. But we shall see. But that is our nominations episode. Really fun. Last year, I think I just went through it and ended the episode. I actually want to do a full episode this time around. So thank you, Miles and Cozette, for joining me. This was a lot of fun. You have a week to vote. So you have 7 days to vote, and then we'll be counting them, and then we'll do the actual episode in 2 weeks. We'll be going over that. I'll be letting you know how many votes we got. Last year we just got under 100. This year I'd like to get over 100. That would be awesome. That is the goal. So spread the word. If you're friends with anybody who watches anime, or if you're in any other Discords or Twitter Spaces, that type of thing, it would be great if you shared this information to everybody. And that way we can get a better representation of what the community out there enjoyed and what they voted for. So that is that. Thank you again. And yeah, if you've made this far and want to support us, like, comment, subscribe, leave a review on whatever platform you're watching or listening to us on. Next week, we will be doing a watch club of Hellsing. But other than that, in 2 weeks, we will be doing our anime of the year for 2024. And you two will be joining me, as well as I think Pat. Still got to see if his schedule lines up, but at least these two and myself will be there for that episode. So I want to say thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye now.